Hi everybody, you're at home with Melissa and I'm glad you're here because today we are going to do something interesting, of course. Today we're going to grow curry. Yeah, obviously you can't really do that. And my apologies for any weird quality that this video has today. I couldn't get my cameras to function, so I'm using the laptop. But hopefully it'll turn out really well. I noticed that when I move quickly, the camera on the laptop doesn't keep up with it, so I'll try not to do that. Okay, what we're going to grow is turmeric. There we go. And ginger. And the neat thing about these two things, well, there are a lot of them, but they both have a lot of medicinal qualities to them because they contain compounds that have been found useful for different medical reasons. So not only are they closely related, they are from the same family of plants, and they both grow in the tropics and, are shorter plants and therefore growing down on the floor of the forest and things. So they have similar growing needs. They also go well together in a lot of dishes and have some similarities in the types of things that they could be used for medicinally. Turmeric, for example, contains the compound curcumin. And curcumin is good to, I'm looking at my Oscar fish. They look so happy. So curcumin, sorry, ADD. Curcumin is good for helping liver function as well as showing some promise right now in treating certain kinds of cancers. And because of that, a lot of people say that if you eat a good deal of it or whatever, that it can help prevent you from getting those cancers in the first place. I don't know if that's the case or not. I do know that, yes, it has shown promise in treating cancers. And yeah, it's good for a lot of other things as well. It's good for inflammation, helping to fight that and helping to fight pain and things. But as to whether eating it can help prevent cancers, that I couldn't say. One thing you do need to know about eating it, though, in order to get any of the benefits of it, is that you need to eat black pepper with it, because the turmeric contains the curcumin, as we said, but the curcumin cannot be utilized by the body without the help of a compound that's found in the black pepper. So you need to serve the two of them together in order for your body to be able to use that curcumin. But it is a really helpful thing. And the turmeric also, of course, contains a lot of other good minerals and vitamins and things like that, as does the ginger. And ginger is also used in treating inflammation and pain. In fact, Dr. John LaPuma, who did a special on medicinal uses for plants, basically food, not plants, food in general. He is a medical doctor and a nutritionist, and he did a special for the PBS, which is, I think, public broadcast station in the United States. And one of the things he said about ginger, its main active compound is called gingerol, and he stated that gingerol is about twice as effective, I think he said twice, may have even been more, but I think he said twice as effective as ibuprofen in treating the inflammation and pain. And so that's obviously a really good thing, and it's found in good concentrations in the ginger, whereas the curcumin and turmeric, I'm stuttering like crazy. The curcumin in the turmeric, it's not really all that concentrated. It's not found very densely concentrated in the turmeric, but gingerol is found in nice high amounts in the ginger. And it's also used, ginger is, for treating nausea, in particular the nausea associated with morning sickness, but basically any kind of nausea. Sometimes eating some ginger or boiling it, making a tea of it and drinking that can really help to fight nausea as well. So those are two really nice, good plants I found in reputable sources that, yes, they really are useful in the ways that I've mentioned, and they're also fun to grow. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to work on that today. And I'm going to plant some. I have some ginger and some turmeric rhizomes. They grow from rhizomes, which is this part right here. Woo! I am just not used to using the laptop. the rooty part. That's the rhizome. Anyway, so I'm going to grow some of them here aquaponically, and I'm going to grow some in soil in case my aquaponic systems don't work well with them, because people do grow these aquaponically and hydroponically, but I never have before, and I may very well just rot the rhizomes instead of getting them to grow properly. And in case I do, I want to make sure I have some backup, so I'm going to grow some in soil as well. But I'm going to show you what I did to create the pots that I was going to use for planting these things in the aquaponic system. And the first one was this. This is nothing more than, hello, there we go. This is nothing more than the container that some cat litter had come in. My cat litter is unscented and it's natural clay, so there's nothing in it that's going to leach out of the plastic, having contained some chemicals and things. There's nothing like that in here that's going to leach out of the plastic and into my fish's tanks. So I thought this would be good, and it's kind of a bigger size, and I thought it would be deep enough and things like that. However, when I got the tops cut off, I thought, well, that's about, see, that's less than 1 hand deep. And I thought, I think I want to go a little bit deeper than that if I can. So what I did is I found a 16-gallon tote. And I know that this will fit in my tank that I want to put it in, because I've used the lid from it as a lid for the tank when I didn't have a lid on the tank. So I know this is going to work. So I got the tote, and it takes up all of our view. So I'm just going to set it here and let you see as much of it as you can, because I can demonstrate what I need to with it. Now, you might be able to see these and might not, these little dots here on the front. What those are little holes that I drilled with the smallest drill bit I had. And then I broke it and went to the second smallest drill bit I had and managed to finish the job before I broke that too. So I'm just so rough. But I did get holes drilled all through this, and that will, once I have it in the fish's tank, allow the water to get in, while the holes are small enough that it won't let my substrate out. And the substrate I'm using is vermiculite. Vermiculite is used a lot of times kind of the same way people use perlite. And I'll show you the vermiculite right here. Let me get it in my hand so I don't drop it on my computer. Whee, there. See that? Whee. Looks kind of like too light for you to really see it all that well, but basically it looks kind of like chicken grit that little chickens eat. And it's really lightweight, porous, and so it soaks up water, and it also, if added to soil, will, oh dear, I bumped something on the computer. There we go. If you put it in your soil, it'll help keep your soil from compacting. So it's good for those uses, just like the perlite is, but I'm going to use the vermiculite alone as substrate for my aquaponics for the rhizomes of ginger and turmeric. So that's why I made the holes really small. As you saw, that was just like chicken grit, really tiny, and that's the coarse vermiculite. So I did think that it was best to make those holes itty bitty, and I did. So, you know, if you're using a bigger substrate, you don't have to worry about it going through the holes. You can drill bigger holes, so that's just fine. What I would suggest for the substrate for growing the ginger or the turmeric, because they have to push through, they've got the rhizomes, and that's the part you're interested in, is either the vermiculite, like I'm going to try, or the expanded clay pellets. If you don't know what those are, basically they're little round clay balls that are hollow in the middle. And they're used for aquaponic and hydroponic gardening. They're very light, and when you first put them in water, they will float until they become saturated with the water, and then they'll sink and form your substrate, which is really good. And lightweight, like I said, all good. So those two things are the things that I would suggest one of for your substrate for growing these, simply because that way it's not like stones and things where they have as much to fight through. And so what I did is I drilled the tiny holes, and I cut the top off of the tote so that it'll fit well height-wise above my aquarium. And you can cut this. I've cut the plastic for these planters and things with a lot of different things. I've used knives, and I've used heavy-duty scissors, pruners, wire cutters. And I've also used, like for this one, I used this. I used a wood burning tool. And you don't have to go out and buy one, not even for the purpose that is the reason I used it for. The reason I used a wood burning tool is because then as you cut the top, as you cut it, it's melting it. And that melted part is wider and therefore not as sharp, and you're not as likely to cut your hand on it when you're working with it. So that's why I used the wood burning tool and melted it. And I think it turned out really nice. And then I used the wood burning tool as well to make some little holes in it that I'm then going to put my wire through to hang it from the shelf above. Now you can come up with your own ways of doing these things for the aquaponics and hydroponics. Again, any container works that will fit the plant that you need it to fit. With ginger, for example, remember that as it grows, it's going to grow a lot deeper than the turmeric, okay? Because the ginger tends to grow like a hand facing downward, you know, branched out like that. So it'll grow really deep. The turmeric will put off new rhizomes and things, but tend to grow more along the top. They're both going to need some depth, but the ginger really grows downward a lot, whereas the turmeric grows more outward than downward. So you can get away with a bit shallower of a container for your turmeric. And again, you can use anything. If you're planting in soil, anything that will hold the soil and water. You want good drainage for both of these plants, but you want them to have a lot of moisture. You want them to get a lot of water, because remember, they're tropical plants, okay? So they like high humidity, well-drained soil without a whole lot of nutrients in it. And if you're growing them aquaponically or hydroponically, anything that'll hold them and allow the water to pass through while not allowing your substrate out is perfectly fine. Okay, again, keeping in mind that for the ginger, you'll want it to be a little bit deeper of a container. Another thing I wanted to make sure of when I was picking out my container, and something that you should keep in mind as well, you can rot these. You know, these are the rhizomes, and it's not like a regular root system that you're growing that's really going to be conducive to easy growing in water, because there is a chance with these that you'll just rot the rhizomes. And that's what I'm concerned about. Therefore, when I grow them, what I want to do, back to our visual aid, is I want to have the water level only be up probably a couple of inches, okay, or an inch or two. So the water level will be a lot lower than the top of the container, and I'll plant the rhizomes near the top of the substrate, so it'll barely be covered, and it'll have all that room to grow downward before it encounters solid water, because then it can suck up the water it needs. It won't be completely wet all the time, which is what I want for these. Then, and I'm not going to show you the actual planting because it's boring. All it is I'm going to fill that container full of vermiculite and set the rhizomes in it. That's all there is to that. But the ones that we're doing in dirt, again, you want to have a nice deep pot, in particular for the ginger, but they both need some depth. So this pot will do fine, and when you're putting the soil in it, just fill it up to this rim that's down here, that little ring that sticks out. That one right there. Don't fill it to the top, because then when you put water in it, the water will splash out over the top, as will a lot of your soil. You'll have a heck of a mess. You don't want that. You want it to be contained within here. So this nice little ridge here is a nice handy thing that you can use as a guideline to fill your soil up to there, plant your stuff in it. And again, don't plant it very deeply, plant it near the surface, because you need the room for the rhizomes to grow down through. And for both of them, you want to plant them horizontally, okay? So let me put these in front of my face. I know my face shows up. You want to plant these horizontally in your soil. And you want to find the little sticky outy things, the little bumps that stick out, okay? There should be little bumps. They're not as easy to see on the turmeric because they're tinier, but there are little bumps that stick out, and those little bumps that stick out are called the something of eyes. Think eyes, I can't remember the word. But anyway, the sticky outy bumpy things are where your green parts of your plant are going to grow out of. So you want to have those facing up if you can. If you find them all over the place on your rhizome, just make sure that you have some of them pointing skyward when you plant them, okay? And that'll help you to plant those. And it should go pretty well for you. And down the road, we'll check in and we'll see how well mine did. See if both the ones in the soil and in the water are growing really well. Now, guys, what I'm looking at is behind you, there are a whole bunch of fish tanks, and a couple of them are giant fish tanks and have some really big fish in them. And those are, well, not really big, but pretty big for aquarium fish. They're my Oscars, and Oscars are really intelligent fish. I know, intelligent fish sounds like an oxymoron, but it's not. They're really smart. They recognize their carers by sight. Like they can, if you're their mom or their dad, they can tell you from any other schmuck that walks in the room. Seriously, by looking at your face. And where most fish are concerned with what's going on inside their tanks, Oscars play with what's in their tanks, but they're also really curious about everything that's going on outside the tank. And since you and I are sitting here talking and we're doing things, I have 2 Oscars in a tank to my left and 2 Oscars in a tank to my right. All 4 of them are at the part of their tank that's as close to me as they can get, staring at me. So that's why I keep looking, kind of giggling, because they're cracking me up. They're just like, what are you doing? If I could breathe air, I could get out there and do whatever it is you're doing. I bet I could do it better than you. I think that's what they're thinking. But anyway, so we know some of the health benefits of both turmeric and ginger. We know how to grow them. Down the road, we're going to check back, in a few months maybe, see how we're doing here in terms of whether the aquaponics system, ginger and turmeric, have survived and the ones in the soil or not. And if I forget to do that, you guys remind me. And to remind me, all you need to do is go into any video. It can be this one or any of the others, and just drop a comment saying, hey, I'd like to know what's going on with the ginger and the turmeric, because you didn't do an update. Are they still alive? And I'll let you know. Alrighty, guys. Well, you go. Have a good time, and hopefully you're going to plant yourself some nice curry as well. And we'll join back up here pretty quick, okay? Have fun, and thanks again for stopping by. I really appreciate it. And, as always, I enjoy your company. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.